Hi everyone. Today I'm gonna talk about karma of difficult relationships and also something that is not something people usually think about, but sometimes we meet people in our lives with whom we may have had a past life karma which plays out in the form of a long term relationship drama. And the reason why I'm making this video is because of my own past experiences that made me realize something about the video I'm going to post a link to, because many men and women go through this problem in their relationships and struggle with understanding love, what is self love, and what is love that is toxic. And that's why I'm trying to make this video. So, I'm gonna start with my own relationship experience and what happened with me when I was young. When I was in my early 20s, I had moved to US from India, and I came from a quite a conservative family system where people didn't date, people usually just married each other. Parents were the ones who would fix your marriages up, normally for the girls and even boys. Sometimes there were people who would meet friends in their colleges and or school life, and they would end up marrying each other after they became adults. But most of the time in relationships in India, very rarely in our culture or our middle class society would people actually sleep with the opposite gender before marriage. So, because of this belief system that I grew up with, when I went to US, I had started dating a guy, and that guy was also Indian. He had been from a different family system than mine, but being a boy, also, sometimes in India, I have seen that boys get a little bit more freedom to choose these paths where they may or may not sleep with someone. And at that time, I wasn't aware about this trend in boys who go to US. But later on, when I had matured in life, I understood this from different male friends or even colleagues that I met from the Indian subcontinent, that there are some Indian or conservative culture men who moved to US for the simple reason of dating and sleeping with women first, getting that freedom to sleep with women because they are living in a more westernized society. And when they have this freedom to sleep with people, they want to explore that life, which they wouldn't have explored if they were in a more conservative setting when living in India. So, because of this reason, the guy that I was dating, when he started dating me, he was very interested in sex. He would only be interested in exploring the sexual side of a relationship. Now, when I had met this guy, he was just a friend of my roommates, and they were classmates and 1 year younger to me in class work related things. Like, they had entered US a year later than I had. But age wise, both my roommate and this guy were older than me, because in India, I think they had studied a little bit more than simply bachelor's degrees. Whereas I had studied a bachelor's degree and then come to US to do a PhD program. Now, while we were all in PhD programs but in different fields of study, he would come to my roommate and for study related work, but I would somehow feel that he's interested in me. There was a sexual chemistry between us. Now, even though I believe that he was interested in me, when from certain things he showed up while he was studying with my friend, he never outspokenly said that he was interested in me. But despite him never verbally speaking that he's interested, one day when we had gone, it was my birthday evening, and we had gone for eating dinner with some common friends. Another girl had temporarily started staying with me as a roommate, because she had at that time not started staying with me as a roommate, but I think she wanted help with staying somewhere to um, because she was going to leave this city in a few months. Because of this reason, when this girl before I'm sorry, I'm getting a little confused because this is a memory from almost 20 years back, and as a result, some of the things are a little confusing. Anyways, coming back, I went for a dinner with some friends where the guy and girl were dating each other, and this guy was interested possibly in dating me. And when we were having the dinner date with these friends, we were just having burgers and fries with each other, and it was the middle of the night dinner, like at 10 o'clock in the night we were having dinner. At that time, this guy was very very sexual with me, that he was all touchy and feely with me. And what I'm trying to describe here is about people who know how to use the and manipulate the sexual energy in someone. So this guy was like that, very very sexual, and he was so sexual with me that if you are a naive person who have never dated anyone and also who is coming from a conservative place, this thing can be very magnetic and powerful if someone is very sexual with you and you have no sexual background and context in the previous history of your life. So because of this and many other things where he was subtly hinting at interest and other things, I started dating him. But when I started dating him, I started seeing that he was only touchy feely and sexual with me, which started making me feel uncomfortable because I was a very conservative person. But what happens with girls like me who are innocent, and there are sometimes boys also who are like that, when someone is magnetically powerful towards you, you get drawn towards them, you want to be with them. There was also if people have done an energy healing, chakra healing, there will also know sometimes you have a emotional heart based chakra connection with someone. So this guy was like that. I was feeling intense sexual energy, also intense emotional connection with him, something that in my family life I hadn't felt, because my family came from a very quiet upbringing I had in my childhood, in my family's life. I didn't have a quiet childhood in school. I didn't have a quiet childhood during vacation time when we would visit cousins. I didn't have a quiet childhood when occasionally my father and mother would take us and we would go and visit some of their friends in Mumbai. At that time, I wasn't quiet. I was sociable. I was having a social life. But majority of my childhood, other than these occasional visits with friends, occasional visits with outsiders, inside my home life, we hardly spoke to each other. So our heart chakras were getting blocked, and emotionally, I didn't have a deep, even though I loved my parents, even though they loved me, there was no deeper, meaningful connection with them. So that's why this guy was even more magnetic for me. That I am feeling these emotions that no one else has made me feel. No one else had crossed this barrier of making me feel. So, because of this reason, I continued dating him for a few months. And even though we were dating, he was always pushing from going from kissing to second base to third base, which I didn't like. Around that same 5 6 months that I was dating him, what happened was this other girl that I was speaking about, she became my roommate. She was a little bit uncomfortable that sometimes this guy would stay in our apartment, and she didn't like that. And she also had a boyfriend, but she never asked her boyfriend to come and move in this apartment. That's why also she was getting a little uncomfortable. Then this guy was very sexual, so she might have felt that sexual energy also, and as a result she said she wasn't liking this. Initially I was not going to listen to her, but at that same time, in a few months time, I had also got a PhD program related exam to give, which was called the prelims. And because I had my prelims, I stopped seeing him, he stopped seeing me. He was good enough like that he didn't even just stop seeing me, he just said he wants to break off with me. So he broke off with me, and that gave me such trauma. And also, I was not that great in studying what I was studying at that time. So while in for 3 months we were broken off, I failed my prelims in those 3 months because I couldn't focus on my studies. I was heartbroken. I didn't know, I was feeling low about my self-respect, and thinking, what did I do wrong to deserve this breakup and things like that. After the prelims happened and after I had failed my prelims, my PhD program gave me the timeline that instead of doing a PhD, I can do a master's instead. And during that master's time, I could. There was some guidelines given to me by my program to how to finish that master's now. So while that was going on in the background, what had also happened before I broke off with this guy was that this guy and I had bought a jointly a car together. At the time, because I had lived in US for 2 years, this guy had lived in US for 1 year, I had more money saved than him. That's why I paid two-thirds the money for the car and he paid one-third the money for this joint car. But as soon as he broke off, he didn't even care, and he knew driving, I didn't know driving. So even though I bought a car where I had a name on, my name was there on the car, he was driving the car everywhere. Now I was a little naive person as well, where because I'm broken up, I'm not thinking about the car because I was studying my exams. I wasn't going out much. We did need groceries, but we had other Indian friends living in the same building. So sometimes we would go grocery shopping with the other friends and they would help us with our groceries. So because of all these reasons, I was not, or the roommate who had a boyfriend, her boyfriend had a car, so she would go and do the groceries. So because other people were doing groceries and because I was focusing more on my studies, I didn't look into my car issue at all. And I am a very understanding girl. So because of this reason also, being a little bit more understanding than other people, I didn't fight over the car with anyone. But after my prelims was up, my friends were like, why aren't you using that car too? You should also learn how to use the car. So when I tried talking about that with this guy, and also because I guess he was lonely or whatever was happening, something happened that we again started dating. And this roommate, who was this common friend who was uncomfortable when he was coming and moving in with us, at that moment, for 6 7 months, she had stayed in this home with us. And this girl had also been my third roommate. So we were in a 2 bedroom apartment where this girl was living in the living room as our roommate, and the other 2 girls were in the bedrooms because sometimes Indians would share costs this way as well. So when this girl left, at that time, after this girl had left, my boyfriend again started dating me. And by that time, I had failed my prelims and I was working on my master's program. And when he moved in, because this car is our joint car, I wanted to learn driving. So I asked him, and he's my boyfriend, so I asked him, can you teach me driving? He would very rarely teach me driving. Whenever he would teach me driving, he would start fighting with me and we would start arguing with each other. So it became a very difficult experience that even though I had a car with him, I was not learning driving. And actually, I'm trying to think. Anyways, so while this thing was going on in the background, where even though I had a car, he was not teaching me driving, he was mostly using the car. He was also being a very crappy boyfriend. And he was also being very sexual. And there's a long history. I can give these small micro details of our relationship, but in essence, he was not a caring boyfriend, he was not a loving boyfriend, he was only a very sexually interested boyfriend, which made me feel very disrespected in the relationship. And because I was getting disrespected, and also because I was from a conservative culture, I kept asking him to respect my boundary that I do not want to engage in sexual relationship with him. I first want to just date him to see whether we have anything in common between each other, anything that will show that this relationship has a long term potential of marriage. Because in India, everyone who would date in India would be like that. They would date someone with the intent of marrying them. If the marriage happened, they will marry. If things came up where the marriage didn't happen, they would break off. That is how it was in India with some of my friends who had these kind of relationships. But very rarely did I know anyone who would sleep with their the person that they were dating. Though in America, I did have many Indian friends who were sleeping with their boyfriends, who were dating their with their. I had a dating life where even if they weren't sleeping completely with their boyfriends, there was something sexual going on in that relationship. So, knowing this, I tried to sometimes extend my boundary with him, and also the boundary got extended with him sexually because he was very insistent. He would keep pushing the boundary, and he was like a child. Like how children are with their parents, they'll keep pushing the boundary of a parent to see how much naughtiness they can do with their parent, how much they can get away with doing when their parents are busy, or when they want to manipulate their parents. Children can do that to their parents too. Like that, this boy was doing that with me. He was trying to manipulate the sexual boundary limit that I had kept in the relationship, which he wasn't ready to fulfill. But he would agree. He would verbally say that he's okay not doing certain things, but he would always keep pushing the boundary, always keep extending it from first base to second base to something else. So, after a few years of doing this with him, I got fed up, and I also, by that time, after my masters had ended, I had a crisis moment when I had zero money. So, even though I had a boyfriend, most of the time, if we went out for dates, we would split the costs. He would never, and in fact, many a times it was not simply about splitting the cost. He would come and eat dinner at my home without ever bringing dinner himself. He would never have bring groceries, he would never bring dinner, he would never do anything supportive where the burden, financial burden, was evenly distributed. So even when he would eat dinner with me at home, I was the one paying for it. In his home, I would very rarely stay. And outside that, if we met outside, it, it was always a split cost. So when it was like this, it was either a split cost, or I started seeing that I was spending lot more money than he was spending in the relationship, and I was also spending emotionally and energetically a lot more, because it takes a toll on your consciousness and energy when you don't want to indulge in certain aspects of sex that your partner wants to engage in. And this is where I want, and especially this is hard for women, because women are not hardwired like men to constantly seek sex in a relationship. Most women are not. So if you're not hardwired to have only sex in a relationship, you will feel uncomfortable. If I am not having sex but sexual intercourse, but I'm going and doing other sexual activities with someone, and I'm not the one who wants to indulge in that, then also it is very disrespectful. So he was constantly pushing this threshold of respect with me. As a result, when I finally got a job, a different job, I decided to move away from him and live in a different city also. And when I did that, and all these step by step distancing from him happened over time of 2 3 years. And in these 2 3 years, he would keep threatening me sometimes that I want to have sex with someone else if you don't give me sex. And he would threaten like that. At that time also, I had very rational conversations with him that if he wanted only sex from a woman and or a dating life like other men are doing in US, I was okay with him having a dating life. But then I was saying, for me it was this situation that if you want a dating life with someone where like other American or Indian guys who are dating multiple women, that is fine with me, but then let's not classify us as a boyfriend and girlfriend. Let's not be in that relationship zone with each other, because I was okay not dating him, and I gave him that time also to not date me. So we would go away from each other, we would break off from each other, and there would be months of gap where we are not seeing each other. But even after keeping a distance from him physically, giving him months of gaps when he is not dating anyone else, at least I presumed he's not dating anyone else, I was definitely not dating anyone. I would just have a gap where I was not dating anyone. I was just keeping a distance from him. But despite that, initially he kept coming back, or I kept coming back. And when I would go back to his home, or he would come back to my home, we would just hang out and have dinner somewhere together. I didn't know what was going on in the background with him. He never told me what was going on in the background with him. I simply assumed that since I am missing him, when I am coming back to date him or meet him, we are just getting back together. Or there would be some days when he would ask me to come, and we would meet for dinner, and then he would be like, we'll be very platonic, I will respect your boundaries, I will not do anything, we will just watch a movie together, come to my place. He would promise me all these platonic friendship related things, that we will just watch a movie or we'll just watch a comedy show or something on his TV. So I would go trusting him to his home, and when I would go to his home, he would then start pushing the sexual boundaries. And very rarely, like say 4 times I have met with him, out of 4 times only 1 time he would respect my boundary, 3 times he will push them. So naturally over time I started getting resenting it, I started getting very angry about it, because he kept promising one thing and doing the other, and I was not liking it. So eventually I had to put my foot down and break up with him. I also had an exam going on at that time for my licensing work, because I worked as a pharmacist there. While I was studying, I completely broke off with him and had no contact with him. When I was giving my exams, at that time also, before going no contact with him, what had also happened that he had broken his phone and needed a new phone plan, and for some reason at that time before these exams I had got back together with him. So I only said, why don't we share a phone plan, it will be cheaper. So initially he said no, he refused it, but after a while he agreed to it. So we had a joint phone plan now, but we weren't dating. And I was sitting and just busy giving my exams and just having a good time just giving my exams. So either during my exams or after my exams, one time, because I was busy with my exams, I didn't look at my phone bills. We used to get at that time phone bills regularly in the mail, but my bills would just simply pile up, like the details of the bills. I would just look at what money needs to be paid and I would pay the bill. That's all I did with my phone bills, and because of which I never looked into any details of who is speaking to whom or anything like that. But one day suddenly, intuitively I got this guidance that I should look at the phone bills, and I didn't know why something is nudging me to look at the phone bills. But so I looked at the phone bills, and when I looked at the phone bills, now that the phone bill was of 2 phone numbers, I had a phone bill which was showing what conversations I had and what conversations my boyfriend had. And I was so surprised that in his phone bill, while he was speaking only 5 minutes with me, with other people he was speaking one hour. And I know this guy is not a speaker, he doesn't hold long conversations with anyone. He was a very introvert type of personality. Even when we would hang hung out in large groups with other friends, he would rarely speak up and be sociable with others. So I was very surprised that who is he speaking for hours on the phone when with me he has not even spoken 5 minutes. So I called, so I got this instinct that I should call this number. And as soon as I called this number, I heard a woman's voice and somehow I knew he is having an affair. Maybe I was wrong about it, right? I had to still give him benefit of doubt. So the next time after my exams, he wanted to hang out with me, and I also wanted to do some celebration because I had finished my exams. So we had gone also out of town to a different city for some 2-3 days vacation. So while in that vacation or just after that vacation, I asked him, and it seemed as if he wanted to get back to me during that vacation because again he was also sexual and other things. And so I asked him, who were you speaking on the phone with? At that time he mentions, are you seeing someone else? I asked him and he said yes. So imagine my betrayal. If I hadn't asked him, he would never have told me that he is seeing this girl. And if I had never seen that phone plan or had a joint phone plan with him, I would never ever have known he was seeing another girl, because with me he was continuing the same pattern he had been continuing as a boyfriend before. So I felt so betrayed, so disrespected. I decided I will not date him at all. So for me, that was kind of like the final breakup with him, that I'm not gonna see him at all, and I stopped seeing him. But during that same time when I had stopped seeing him, what also manifested was that as soon as I had broken off from him, a couple of months later, my dad was like suddenly calling me and asking me, are you dating anyone? Do you have someone in your life that you're dating? I was like, no, I'm not dating anyone. I didn't say no, I'm not dating anyone. But he's like, you should get married. You are now in your late 20s, so you should think about getting married. I was around 26, 27 years of age at that time. So, and that was an age where many Indian girls get pressurized by their family to get married. So, even though my dad asked me if I was dating someone, because I was broken off with my boyfriend, I couldn't say anything. Second reason, I was not close to my dad. So even if I was dating that boy, I would still not have said anything to my dad, because if the boy hasn't proposed to me, I can't say anything to my dad, was how I perceived things with him. So when my dad mentioned something, he just then started saying, you should get married and there are some proposals I have found that you should look into. And like that, my dad sent me some information about some guys. And out of some of those guys, eventually, even though initially I was not convinced because I was still emotionally attached to this boyfriend, for a few months I didn't see whatever my dad was showing. But when I went to India for a vacation, in that vacation time, my dad started again pushing this marriage thing, and I had to go through something called the arranged marriage process in India, where when a girl is there in the guy's family comes and sees the girl. Like that, two guys' family came to see me, and both times the guys didn't come. With one of the guys, the parents, father and mother had come, and with another guy, the mother and mother's sister had come to see me. And because I was in Calcutta at the time, where my extended family lives, one visit happened in my maternal uncle's home, and the other visit happened with my paternal aunt's sister's home. And after seeing me, one of these guys' parents, mother, gave the approval, because of which when I went back to US, they had shared the phone number with the guy. So that guy now started talking to me. And while this guy is talking to me and everything, I also ended up meeting him twice. and 2 or 3 times. Again, I met that ex-boyfriend who wanted to get back with me. That started happening suddenly at the same time while I was seeing this other guy from my um, father's end. And this other guy that I had met from my father's end, there were a lot of creepy things with that guy also. And while I was meeting him, I was still not over my ex. That's why we things didn't work out. And I'm glad that with the second guy things didn't work out. But what happened with my ex was, when he tried to get back with me and he wanted to be together with me, again something happened where I realized that he's dating others, and he's not telling me that he's dating others. Even though I was telling him about this whole fiasco that had happened with the guy that my parents had sent my way. And not just my parents had sent my way, there were other guys also along with this guy that I had got a phone number for talking to another guy who had just seen my photo and wanted to talk with me. So there were 2 3 guys at that time my family had sent my way. Out of 2 3 guys, 2 guys I was speaking on the phone with, one guy I had, and one of them I had met with. And while all this is going on in the background, and I told some of this to my ex-boyfriend who wanted to get back with me now after I had stopped talking with both guys. So a year had passed, and in that year, for few months I had spoken to one guy. In that year, for many months I had spoken and met another guy, and things didn't pan out. But in that 1.5 year of breakup with my ex, at that time he was also doing something which he never told me. And actually, I'm sorry, the phone call thing happened after we had broken up and then got back after 1.5 years of breakup. And in that 1.5 years of breakup, when we started dating each other, at that time his phone had this phone plan thing had happened. So sorry, I had messed up my timeline. But this phone thing where intuitively I was guided into looking at my phone happened after my breakup with this boy. So in that 1.5 year, when maybe 1 year, it won't be 1.5 year, I think it was a 1 year breakup. So in that 1 year breakup, when I was talking to others and he was also doing other things that I didn't know about, he hid that from me and wanted to just simply get back without telling me the background of what had happened to him. Whereas I had told him the background, that in the breakup period what I had done. If not every detail, I had at least said that, see, my family is right now considering and pushing me for marriage, and that I had been speaking with other people. That much information I had given him. But that's why I felt really betrayed when he didn't give me that same feedback. He didn't also have to tell me the details of how many girls he dated, how many people he met, who he slept with, who he was speaking with. He had to give me no details. But when I have been honest and authentic before getting back together with him, shouldn't he have also been honest and authentic about it? He wasn't. And if the universe, in the 2 3 months, again, because we were now living in different cities, earlier when I was dating him once a few weeks, now I was meeting him only once a month. But even in that once a month meeting, or even speaking with him only maybe once in a week, and in all those conversations he's not able to build any emotional depth with me. In all those conversations, while he's not building any emotional depth with me, on the other hand he's having 1 hour conversations with other women, will it naturally seem like a imbalance in a relationship? I don't have a relationship where he speaks with me long term. I don't have a relationship where he respects my sexual boundaries. And now I didn't have a relationship where, while I was being authentic to him, he is not authentic with me. And the girl whose video I'm going to reference here, she has this kind of man in her life. A man, when she asks him openly, does your wife, she is having an affair, she's on the other end of the spectrum. With me it was like, this guy is having affair with another woman and me at the same time. He started dating me first. He might have met the other girl later, but we are both in this gray zone of him two timing two girls. Now, the other girl can also think that he's cheating on me. I can also think he's cheating on me. Because which relationship gets priority? It's a ethical zone. People can decide. But emotionally, both women are being played by him. And I'm pretty sure he didn't even tell the other girl that he is getting back together with me when things started again getting back together zone with me. Right? I'm thinking that we are getting back together. Whereas him being a man, he could just be thinking he is ready for any sex with anyone. And this is what any woman who is in a marriage with a guy like this, or any woman who is in a relationship with a guy who is married, has to understand about self respect, self care, and understanding that sometimes, even though women can end up thinking more about their partner's emotions, sometimes partners are selfish enough, narcissistic enough to not think of the emotional and psychological consequences of their cheating on the women they are cheating on as well as the women they are cheating with, because it traumatizes both women. The women they are cheating with, they could be making false promises or showing these vague words of care, or they are just simply coming to them to get the sex, get the emotional energy, get the love energy, and they're doing it to both partners. With one they're having more sex, with the other they might not be having more sex, with the other they are having more of the maternal comforting energy from them. And that's why I was like the wife in this relationship, where, and I literally used to feel also for many years when I was dating him, like how I would feel towards a spouse when married to a spouse. That was the level of ethics and honor I wanted in my relationship with him, which he never brought to the table from the beginning stages of the relationship. But because I was an insecure woman, because he did look very good, in terms of looks he was much more good looking, in terms of intelligence also he had a lot more intelligence than me. Because of whatever reason, his magnetism and his power was greater, which causes women like me to fall for these greater magnetic personalities. But the flip side of these greater magnetic personalities is that they do not have personal ethics. They are not ethical. They do not respect relationship boundaries of ethics. They do not care that even if one partner is being ethical, that they should also equally be ethical. Like, what was wrong in him telling that in the meantime when we were having breakup, I was dating someone else and I am also considering another girl? That is where I got pissed off with this guy. Like, I know I'm not married to you, so I can't hold you to a loyalty level that a marriage can entail. But even if I do not hold you to a loyalty level that a marriage can entail, that you do have the, and which I had also expressly expressed to him in the past, that when we are broken up, if he wants, he can date anyone else. But the difference is, you can't use me as a tool and the other girl as a tool and two-time both of us. If you are dating someone else, honestly just date her, don't get back with me. And tell that to me. If you tell that to me, why will I date you? This is my personal ethics. If I know you are dating someone else, if I know you are interested in someone else, I do not want to be in the middle of a mess. So that's when I finally broke off, and I decided not to get back together with him ever again, even though on and off many times I had done that. And then also, even though I made this determined effort to break off now finally one final time with him, even then, after again another year passing, he tried to get back together with me. After having dated others, after having failed in some relationship zones with others, after him even trying to marry someone who his parents had now via arranged marriage got him to meet. Despite all this journey also happening with him now, he tried to get back together with me. I don't know why he did that, what was the reason, but my past trauma from being cheated by him, betrayed by him, disrespected by him, sexually objectified by him, only used for sex by him, never having him share any finances with me when I was literally in the near $0 range in my bank account. I had been in a phase where my bank account had no money because for 6 months I had no job. And in those 6 months, even though he was dating me, I was carrying the financial burden even in those 6 months, because he never ever was the carer, provider, caretaker, lover who is seeing the equation in a balanced way of a lover, caretaker, providing man. And there are many men like this on earth right now. There are also some women like this on earth like now, who will simply keep taking from another. If you give money, they will take money. If you get love, they will take love. If you are caretaking them as their spouse, being the honest, fair, or ethical, non-betrayal, loyal spouse, they will not be that to you. Be it you are the spouse, be it you are their girlfriend, they will not do it to you. And this guy is the kind who I am going to reference in this video. He is that kind, exactly like my first boyfriend, who is magnetic enough to get many women to fall for him. But for him, all these women are simply toys for him getting some sexual power, sexual energy, or care and caretaking from them. Because of which this guy is also two-timing. The one who gives him sex, he's taking the sex from. The one who gives him loving, caretaking, a connection in a home life where he doesn't have to do anything in his home life, right? And in both their lives, he's actually rarely likely contributing in home care, health care, finances. He might be contributing a little bit more financially with his spouse and kids, but even there he's likely giving the bare minimum. So he's been disrespectful for both. And if both women find out about this affair, they both should leave him. If one woman finds out and knows, especially the one who's having the affair, she has to gather the courage to understand that she is being used and played by this guy, and that this guy will keep playing her. This girl gave her virginity to this guy. This is the only difference between this girl and me. I didn't give my virginity to this guy. I didn't want to give my virginity. I set up the boundary that I will not go beyond certain sexual things. And it's not that he didn't get sexually satisfied. There are other ways to satisfy a man without giving them actual sexual intercourse, which I had done because at that time I was in love with him. So I kept increasing my sexual boundary when I didn't have to. But for him, I did that. As a result, because I kept pushing my sexual boundaries with him, I went through intense pain, intense months of guilt, shame, consciousness-driven tussle within myself, because I'm hating myself for allowing him to push my sexual boundaries. I was hating myself for doing sexual acts which I didn't want to engage in with someone who I could see was not respectful towards me, who I could see was not caring towards me. But I still kept doing that. Why? Because sometimes women like us keep giving because we have no one else to give. This girl who's talking about her affair, I understand the level of loneliness. I understand the level of seeing every friend being married to other people. I understand the level of late life blooming also, because I was a late life bloomer too. I didn't understand my value, worth, place as a woman in any patriarchal society's way of living also, and in generally how people live in India and US also. I couldn't find what I was searching for with this man, and I would never get it with this man. I knew it eventually when it hit me, and I knew it finally. So even after another year of gap, when he tried to get back together with me, this time even though when we were initially dating, He never celebrated birthdays. He would insult me during birthdays and Valentine's Day also. I have a whole history of insulting relationship pattern with him, disrespectful pattern, and I tolerated that disrespect simply because in my mind and heart and I thought that I love this guy, so I should just keep love means that. This is another belief system we all hold, that love means to love someone through their good and bad. Love means to be loyal and ethical towards someone even when they are not doing that to you, which is true, but there is a limit to which you can do it. True meaning, if you are having a hard relationship in love with someone, you are married with them, all these things make sense. But if you are simply dating someone, some people have to realize and understand that if you are doing this to bringing this to the table with someone and they are not bringing that same thing in the table of the relationship with you, where you are the one who's only been fair and ethical and authentic, while the other person is simply just wishy-washy or taking advantage of you by not giving you direct answers, direct responses, don't date them long term. Even if you have dated these men long term, dated these women long term, because this happens sometimes to men as well. They'll keep pouring everything, they'll give everything to the girlfriend, they will ask and do everything that the girlfriend demands because they are the good men now. They are the good men who want to be fair and kind and provider like in the relationship. But if you're giving this again and again for years and years to a girl and she doesn't give back in the same way to you by being loving and caring and caretaking, then you are being taken advantage of. There are also relationships where both partners are selfish. That is a different kind of relationship. But this is the kind where only one partner is mostly giving many things and sacrificing many things. Imagine the sacrifice of the girl who is also cheating. Because while people only look at cheaters as the cheaters, you have to understand that the girl who is cheating with him, this is not the girl who is the home wrecker kind of girl. This is the girl who didn't want to home wreck someone else's life. That's why she was even willing to undergo an abortion. Because if she was really the home wrecker kind, really the selfish and narcissistic kind of cheater, she would have simply gone ahead with giving birth to that child. She would have used that child as a tool to get money from this guy, which she didn't do. So this girl, I know from what she has already revealed in this video, that she is not the homewrecker type. She is just the lonely girl who's been taken advantage of a guy who uses her loneliness every time she is willing to give in to the relationship. And she has tried to stay away from him because she is, and I understand this magnetic attraction to men. I've met a couple of such men who magnetically will say all these things or be wishy-washy or just simply draw you in. I've had 3-4 different kinds of exposures to such men. I was even married to a man who gave me all these words. Via words, he's hinting that he's in love with me. But when actually the marriage happened, there was no love in the relationship. There was no true love, no true show of love. And that guy had also started emotionally cheating on me. As soon as he had entered a security of marriage, for him, it didn't matter if he's emotionally cheating. And he was completely even worse than the first guy I'm mentioning here. And between that first guy and the last guy, I went through all sorts of insecurity related relationships that triggered my hidden insecurity, relationships that made me feel less than what I should have felt, what I deserved to feel. So I know what it feels like to be both married and being cheated on, feel like you're married to someone and being cheated on, being the authentic one, loyal one, and still being cheated on. And because of all these reasons, I'm telling, if this girl happens to see this video, or any other girls like her, any other boys like her see this video, even if you are in your 40s, even if you're in your 30s, even if you're in your 50s, it doesn't matter what age this happened to you, where your husband cheated on you or you are the one who are getting played to be a participant in someone else's marriage cheating. But some men can do that, some women can do that. They are so magnetic, they are so beautiful, and people who are insecure like me, who had never been admired by someone beautiful, can get charmed like this. We will feel because we are not holding our self-worth, because outside beauty, sexual magnetism, sexual power of anyone else doesn't matter if that person doesn't have the ethics to be loyal to anyone. If he is not happy in his marriage, he should get out of the marriage, stay out of the marriage, get divorced, and then maybe pursue a good woman if he feels that this other girl is a good woman. But that is not the truth of his matter. Otherwise, this relationship wouldn't continue on for so many years. He's just the kind of man who will get sex from anywhere that he wants to get sex from, and he has access to that sex. He has kept that window of sexual affairs open with others, but he is loyal to no one except himself. He's not loyal to his wife, he's not loyal to his children, he's not loyal to anyone he's dating. If he gets children also from them, he will not be loyal to any of them. And do you really want to have a long term life of false illusions of love with this person? Even if you love them, the illusion of love is this, that the other person doesn't love you. Same way with his wife. The wife will be deeply in love with the husband, possibly, but he doesn't love her. Because love automatically should come with respect for whoever you are loving. And he doesn't respect both women. Only person he doesn't even respect himself. That's why he is in such a degrading soul karma based state. He doesn't have self respect also. But from a guy like these, from many men like these, I learned to develop my own self respect. And even when I was married, I couldn't have sex with a guy who was not showing me love. Now I understand there is a term for women like me. That term is called demisexual, where women and men like me, if you don't have love, if you don't have respect, if you don't show care, if you don't have a deep, meaningful, emotional connection with your partner, you are incapable of having sex with them, or the sex you will have with them will be really bad sex. Because demisexuals are there on earth for this particular reason. You want the actual, true, meaningful, old school version of love with someone, and if that old school, meaningful, depth filled, religious teaching based, loyalty based, authenticity based, deep emotional connection and caretaking of each other based love, if it is not present from both partners, demisexuals are people who do not engage in sex with others. I am like that. And my biggest sexual test was when I was in marriage with a guy who had this sexual magnetic power, but because he had other problems, he couldn't use his power. But he had used that magnetic power to lure me into marrying him and pretending that he was in love with me when he wasn't. And the other guy was sexually luring me into making me think that this is the most beautiful relationship, most magnetic and powerful relationship, which is true. It was the most intense love based energy I have felt for someone, most intense heart chakra based energy I felt for someone, most intense sexual energy I felt for someone. But even though all these were really intense, it is not enough material to make it a balanced love, because there was never love from his end. For him, it was just a superficial something called future faking of love, where he will promise that he will hold my boundaries of sexual boundaries up, but he wouldn't. As soon as he would see me be very, and I was a very voluptuous looking woman, so I have this figure which attracts men to be attracted to me sexually. But because of this figure, while they will be attracted to me sexually, if they are not attracted to me emotionally or personality wise, I understand now from interaction with these men that I do not want to be considered simply as a body. In a relationship, my mind, body, soul, spirit has to be respected. And if any of these are also not respected, because now after being in my 40s, I've also met a man who respects my mind and body. but he still doesn't respect the spirit and ethics of a ethical, balanced relationship. And he will never get it unless he understands all the things that typically men do in their life, where they think it is okay to be in these ethical gray zones. Not just men and women do nowadays in our modern lifestyle, who think that it is okay to flirt with co-workers, who think that it is okay to go and hang out with co-workers all the time, and more than they are hanging out with their own spouse. They do not consider that as a ethical gray zone, but it is a ethical gray zone. It is a ethical gray zone where you are like how there is something called gateway drugs are people who will start initially by smoking and drinking, and then getting into marijuana, and then after smoking, drinking marijuana, which they would have done maybe in their initial teen years, and because they do not consider any of these harmful, then they will start taking drugs in their later years of life, which is the ethical, which is the that's why smoking, drinking, marijuana are considered as gateway drugs to higher levels of becoming addicted to drugs. Same way, there is a gateway drug of drugs in prescription medications as well. I know some of those gateway drugs because I have seen some patients get into those ethical gray zones of starting to take prescription drugs for a health issue, and then slowly over time it has become an addiction because they have opened the door to addiction. Same way, there are men and women who have these gateway drugs open for relationships, where they do not value their partner enough, so they will keep flirting with other people. And if after flirting those people do not have a strong ethics, or those people have had a lonely life where even if they had a strong ethics, this person's magnetism is pulling them towards them, they will go to that person and have an affair with them. But if you want to have a loyal life with a partner, if you really want a quality relationship with someone, you have to let go all these kinds of crappy men, and you have to close the door to such crappy men and women. You can never open the door to anyone who is not, you should never. Can never is a different thing, but you should never open the door of opportunity and give the door of opportunity to people to take advantage of you when they are not as ethical like you, they are not as fair like you, they are not able to perceive that flirting with co-workers is a ethical gray zone, that touchy-feely with co-workers is a ethical gray zone, that flirting with co-workers and taking pictures as if you're dating them is a ethical gray zone, even if you are not dating them, that allowing people to tease you that this is your work wife is a ethical gray zone, allowing people to tease you even if you have a housewife that this is your work wife, even if you don't have a housewife, you're dating someone but this is your work wife. Then imagine you're dating someone in order to get married to them, but in the background you're okay with categorizing another woman as your work wife. She got even the wife tag first before your own person with whom you are going to marry is getting the wife tag. What rubbish is that? Or there are other men who or women who will also do this. They will have the work husband tag because they want to use that work husband to help them in their work, to aid them in their work, and while in the home they do have a husband. That is again an ethical gray zone. That is again something, you're having an emotional affair, you're having a dependency based relationship with someone at work, which you shouldn't have. Work is mutually codependent, definitely, but if you have only one partner with whom you are doing many things at work, when there are 10 other people whom you should collaboratively be working with, you have crossed the ethical gray zone of work life also. You have crossed the ethical gray zone of work life and married life if you were married or dating someone else as well. So these things people need to learn how to navigate. If they are not navigating, these are the modern sins. If people think just because I didn't sleep with them, that is all that was to the sin, I didn't commit any sin. Or if people think this girl was okay with me sleeping with her, that's why I didn't cross any ethical gray zone, she knew I was married. No, you have the greater karma and you will pay the price eventually in some life. It is up to you when you will pay the price. It is up to the good things you did in life and the bad things you did in life that will end up making you pay for your karma. But you will pay eventually, some life, some lifetime, some later stages of your life, because this man has it coming. I hope his wife leaves this shitty man. I hope this girlfriend leaves this shitty man, and men like them deserve to be left alone to fester and understand what karmically, traumatically, emotionally, psychologically, what kind of grief, pain, torture, psychological abuse they have brought in the lives of both women. And like this, the women who do that to men, they also need to be left alone. When they will be left alone is a divine timing. But if you don't leave them, you will never understand anyone dating such men and women, anyone being married to such men and women. If they don't leave them, they will never ever even begin to get the depth of trauma they had put someone else through, because it is traumatic both for the girl who is giving her sex, who is giving her active biological stages of life when she could have had a meaningful relationship with someone else. She can still have a meaningful relationship with someone else. She should not regret. She should regret having this affair. She should actually go and apologize to the wife if she has the guts to do that. That is the way she will clear her karma with this wife. If she has the guts and ethics to go and tell the wife what she has done. If not now, 10 years later, someday she should tell that wife what she did to that wife. That is the way to clear the karma. But until then, if she doesn't have the strength to say anything to the wife, she has to have enough self-respect and self-love to get away from this toxic man. And I hope this was insightful. I hope this was meaningful. If anyone is going through similar relationship problems, drop a comment. I would be happy to help in answering any questions. Even if it is not about you, about your friend of yours, put a comment down. I would love to answer such ethical gray zone related questions, because I have dealt and had it with people who have tested my ethics. I've really had it, and I am interested in helping anyone who is going through these ethical dilemmas where their partners don't even care about such ethics. Their partners will keep on using them because in their education, in their mindset, being a man, being a patriarchy oriented person, or being a beautiful woman, or being a gorgeous woman who has 10 men who can fall after her, they have no personal ethics. Their personal ethics has been screwed up, fucked up, and they will never learn until each and every person they are trying to date and manipulate will stop dating and manipulating them, will stop being their spouse. This is the only way to teach those people who are testing the patience of multiple people by serial dating them, serial cheating on partners, and other stuff. Anyways, I hope this was insightful, and I do have some trauma still left from some past experiences, but I have done my work on how to get away from such serial daters, serial cheaters, people who don't consider the ethical gray zones as gray zones, and who expect a loyal partnership from a partner where they expect their wife or husband to be loyal to them, to not date other people, but for them it is no problem if they are flirting with others. It is no problem if they have been categorized to have work wives and work husbands with others. They don't care. Why? Because they are selfish, narcissistic people, and they will get love from wherever they can get the love. They don't care who is giving them the love. They don't care if the wife is being loyal and not cheating anywhere else. They don't care if the wife never flirts with anyone. They don't care. They don't care if the husband doesn't flirt, the husband is loyal, the husband is ethical, but if the husband puts that boundary down, the nasty women will go and tell that the husband is the problem zone when the wife is the problem zone. Or the husband will not consider his flirting with other women as a problem zone when the wife is ethical and honest and not flirting with anyone. She keeps her doors closed of flirting, but the husband is always open to flirting. Is that a balanced relationship? Is that a relationship of respect? Is that a relationship of ethics? Is that a loyal relationship? Just because they didn't sleep with someone, is it a loyal relationship? I do not think so. I do not believe so. And people, by giving these windows of opportunities to their partners, people who are the lesser good looking one, lesser magnetic one, lesser clever one, lesser feeling less about themselves one, allow this from their partner, thinking that it is okay because I can never get a better partner than this. But that is the false paradigm I want everyone to break about themselves. You will get a better partner, you will get a better love, you will get someone who is not going to breach your ethics of any kind, be it sexual ethics, be it psychological ethics, be it emotional ethics, be it spiritual ethics. None of those ethics will be broken, but you have to ask God to guide you to that partner. You have to be strong to say no to anyone who is not that kind of a partner. And again, I hope it helps. Please post a comment if you have any comments on this video. Thank you very much. Have a great day.